In time for Black Ops 6 Zombies, I thought I would compile a video recapping the entire timeline and history of Samantha Maxis, because in my comment section I've seen many people confused because they thought that all of the characters were gone after the ending on Tag de Totem, but people seem to have misinterpreted that ending because actually 2 remaining characters continued into this new story. The quote-unquote innocent soul of Samantha Maxis as well as Eddie Richtofen. But we will not be focusing on Richtofen in this video and just the life of Samantha. Similar to Richtofen, the life of Samantha Maxis is complicated because it spans a prior multiverse into the new universe and different iterations of her, but I will be trying to make it simplified in this video. Essentially, both Richtofen and Samantha are the through line between the Aether story as well as the new Dark Aether story, continuing the story chronologically, and is the main link between the two. The Dark Aether story is just a continuation of that prior story, but as it currently stands, these are the only 2 returning characters until a later date in case any further are reintroduced. This will be a condensed version of her timeline, and a lot of unnecessary events that you don't need to know that are not pertinent to Samantha Maxis' life specifically will be omitted from this video. If you would like a more in-depth look at the story of Samantha Maxis, I've already posted a full video going over the storyline of the Aether story, as well as a video going over the full storyline of Black Ops Cold War Zombies that takes a more in-depth look at the nuances throughout her life and her interactions with others. Both of those will be linked below if you would like to watch them after you are done watching this video if anything confuses you. With that being said, let's dive into the full story of Samantha Maxis. I want to give a big thank you to the Call of Duty wiki that has provided a very nice summary of her biography that I will be using as a basis for this video. I will also leave a link to it down in this video's description if you want to read it for yourself or alongside whilst watching this video, but this video will be a combination of both audio and visuals of the events that actually happen to make it easier to digest. In her early life, Samantha Maxis was reportedly born to Ludwig Maxis and his unnamed wife on November 5th, 1934. After his wife died during childbirth, Maxis made sure Samantha was always close to him. Due to his research, however, he neglected her and failed to notice Richtofen's experiments on her. As the experiments went on, Richtofen discovered more about Samantha Maxis and grew to hate her and Dr. Maxis, perhaps due to Maxis' attachment to his daughter or due to what she and Maxis had become. When Richtofen trapped Samantha in one of the teleported rooms on Der Riese with her dog Fluffy, he activated the teleporter, which teleported her to Griffin Station on the moon. There, in a panic, she accidentally came into contact with the MPD, the Moon Pyramid device, which allowed her to take control of the zombies. In an effort to stop her and free her so that Richtofen could operate it, Groff and Schuster found and brought Dr. Maxis to her. However, Maxis told her to kill them all, and her father killed himself shortly after, sending Samantha Maxis over the edge and on a rampage to destroy all of Group 935, which had betrayed and essentially killed her father. After Richtofen forcefully trades bodies with her to control the zombies on the moon, she and Richtofen's test subjects activate Maxis' backup plan and incinerate the Earth, leaving Richtofen trapped in her body and able to control the zombies on the moon and the remaining zombies on Earth. After the events on the moon, Samantha is left in Richtofen's body until her father's plan can come to fruition 10 years later. After the final polarization device is activated in Maxis' favor in Buried, he is able to extract Samantha's soul from Richtofen's body. Maxis brings her soul into Agatha. However, Maxis and Samantha see the corruption of each other. When a rift opens, Samantha reaches out to an alternate version of her father in a Group 935 excavation site in northern France in Dimension 63, Origins. She begs for him to free her. Carrying a message of warning from the ancients, Samantha speaks to Maxis constantly, to the point where he gets completely consumed by her voice, believing Samantha is the key to everything. After the zombie outbreak at the site, she tries to convince the premise selves of Tank Dempsey, Takeo Masaki, Nikolai Belinsky, and Edward Richtofen to free her from Agatha. Samantha constantly talks to the characters, whispering threats and promises. Richtofen attempts to resist her, saying he knows what she truly is, but eventually falls to her demands, as Primus opens the gateway, and thus Samantha is freed. After After being freed from Agatha, she sends Primus to their next destination. Following this, she is brought to the house by Dr. Monty, where she reunites with the Dimension 63 version of her father. Realizing she was still corrupted by the Dark Aether, Monty takes her away for an unknown period of time, eventually bringing her back with her innocence restored. Eventually, she meets Eddie, an innocent version of Richtofen's soul that Primus Richtofen brought to the house from Dimension 2210. They both play together in the house with toys that Monty brings them, embodiments of the Aether story. After some time staying in the house with Eddie, the souls of Dempsey, Takeo, and Nikolai arrive at the house as children. The idyllic life is soon interrupted, however. The Shadow Man, still within the summoning key, exploits Maxis' lack of a soul to take control of his body. Using the key's ability to bridge between dimensions, he unleashes the Apothegons from the Dark Aether, allowing them back into Agatha. To prevent their erasure from existence after their purpose is fulfilled, Richtofen has Primus drink blood from a dimension outside of Monty's control on Mob of the Dead. Unaware, however, that this is exactly what Monty wants, forcing Primus to have to be sent back to the Great War, and so the cycle continues. After the cycle is broken, Samantha and Eddie are teleported away from the house by her father, Maxis, to Camp Edward to prevent Monty from killing both of them. Within the teleporter, she watched her father be devoured by the Ancient Keeper, and unleashed her powers when arriving at Camp Edward in a fit of rage. She accompanies Primus and Ultimus into a forest, where the adults of the group celebrate and pass out drunk, save for Ultimus Richtofen and Primus Nikolai. She and Eddie are pulled away from the rest of the crew by Nikolai, who proceeds to ask her to kill the one who perpetrated all of this, with Eddie cowering behind her. When Victus gathered the Agathan device for Primus Nikolai, Samantha stood by as she saw the rest of Primus and Ultimus lying dead on the floor, poisoned by the alcohol they had previously consumed. After giving Ultimus Richtofen his final death, Nikolai hands Samantha a revolver, knowing he too must die in order for the Aether to be destroyed. Before shooting Nikolai, Samantha asks Eddie to look away. After killing Nikolai, Samantha and Eddie find the way through, walking towards the light of a new universe, free from the Dark Aether's corruption, as all else is banished to the Dark Aether. There we have the through line to the Dark Aether saga. After she arrived in the new universe with no memory of what occurred in the universe before, Samantha Maxis grew up in West Germany in an orphanage. Not much is known about her early life. In 1973, she graduated from the Heidelberg University with a bachelor's degree in applied mathematics and a minor in linguistics. Becoming fluent in English, French, and Russian, Maxis was recruited by the Western Federal Intelligence Service the very next year. As an agent of the BND, she was in Iran during the Islamic Revolution of 1979 when the Shah was overthrown. As the CIA and Western intelligence agencies worked together to ensure the Shah's safe extraction to the United States, many diplomats and Western citizens were being left behind. Maxis was saved by the intervention of CIA officer Gregory Weaver, who was willing to go off the books to extract her out of the country. This marked the beginning of a strong friendship between the two spies. At one point, Weaver and Samantha were actively attempting to save a boy. Samantha was waiting for a phone call from Weaver from 10 to 12 o'clock, until she heard about an explosion on TV, distressing her to the point of sleeplessness. At 3 a.m, Weaver arrived at Samantha's apartment, bloodied and wounded. While crying, Weaver mumbled about covering his tracks after a hit and how sorry he was. He told Samantha that the boy was supposed to be staying with his mother, but in reality was in the house as it burned to the ground. Now, whilst this is not confirmed, from inferences we can make from Cold War zombies, it is possible that Richtofen himself, before eventually becoming the director of Requiem, was the target of assassination by Weaver, and it was Weaver's wife and son that perished in a house fire when Weaver tried to cover his tracks after he failed to assassinate Richtofen. As to why he was a target, it's unclear, but this would explain why Richtofen has a scar along his throat and eyebrow, and this could be part of his motivations throughout Cold War Zombies, which I'll come onto in the future. We don't know at which point Samantha and Richtofen separated when they entered this new universe, or maybe they entered the new universe separately to begin with, or if they even had any further contact other than this before the events of Cold War Zombies. Perseus gave an assessment of Samantha Maxis as to why they did not recruit her. They said, due to her tendency to operate independently and her personal distrust of comrades and superiors alike, Agent Maxis is deemed a poor prospect for recruitment. In fact, she may represent a greater threat to our goals than any other member of the global intelligence community. Now we move into the main plot of Cold War Zombies and the beginning. In 1983, Maxis notices something wrong within the BND with one of her colleagues, Aether, warning her that the agency was pulling a list of all foreign nationals and defectors who worked for the BND in the 5 years prior. Soon after, she received a message from a contact within the KGB, Tatiana, talking about something from World War II they dug up from their archives called End Station, with a group operation taking place in Poland. She warned Weaver about the matter, but feared their conversations were being spied on. She soon received a VHS tape with war footage of End Station from Tatiana, with the help of other contacts who were killed by the KGB shortly after. Maxis tasked Aether to send the tape to Weaver and the CIA. By early November 1983, several outbreak zones started to appear around the world. Maxis contacts Weaver and urged him to watch the tape while explaining to him that End Station was the cause of the outbreaks and that Omega Group was behind all of it. This led to the creation of Requiem, and Weaver being one of its leaders. While Weaver offered his help to protect Maxis, she refused, arguing she must stay in the field. Believing the BND was compromised by Omega Group, she was now operating without authorization or oversight. Weaver sent operators to retrieve Maxis, but she managed to fend them off and left Germany to meet a new contact within Omega Group, Sergei Ravanov, who she believed could be turned to her side. After a stop in Romania, she traveled to Vietnam, where an Omega base, Outpost 25, was located under the leadership of William Peck. With the information provided by Ravanov, Maxis realized the full extent of Omega Group's plans, controlling the bridges between their world and the Dark Aether to harness and weaponize Ethereum to win the Cold War. On June 13th, 1984, Maxis was captured while infiltrating Outpost 25. Interrogated by Peck, she was to be kept alive per orders from Kravchenko. Peck disobeyed these orders, however, as he was secretly working as a mole for the director of Requiem, although he didn't learn that identity until later. In line with his hidden agenda, outside the knowledge of both Requiem and Omega, he requested Peck to get rid of Maxis by throwing her into the Dark Aether. According to Peck, however, the director did not anticipate that Requiem would be able to recover Maxis. 2 days later, she was rescued by Requiem, which, with the help of Ravanov, infiltrated the overrun facility and opened a portal for her to escape. After battling an order, she followed Requiem as they were leaving the area, while Ravanov rejoined Omega Group as a large operation was taking place in the Ural Mountains. Upon returning to Requiem headquarters, Maxis was placed in quarantine before being tested. While Requiem estimated she roughly spent 48 hours in the Dark Aether, physiological, psychological, and metabolic data from the test indicated she spent several months in the other dimension, showing that time passes at a different rate in the other realm. During the following months, Maxis was kept in a sterile room as she was questioned by Mackenzie Carver, Oscar Strauss, and Elizabeth Gray, as well as Weaver, who visited her often. Alone, she started a diary looking back at dreams and past experiences in the Dark Aether. She also used a radio to talk to the strike teams involved in Operation Threshold in the Ural Mountains. However, Requiem senior staff decided to take away her radio as she was deemed too unstable following outbursts against medical staff. To help with the loneliness, Weaver offered Maxis a Rottweiler, which she later named Not So Fluffy, paying homage to the Aether story, and now was permitted to walk around the grounds twice daily. During her time in the Dark Aether, she witnessed many traumatic events as she felt lost between her old and current self and seemingly began to corrupt once again. She envisioned killing Omega soldiers. She had taken clothing from past Aether characters. It was a very traumatic event for her. Nevertheless, by October 1984, Maxis went behind Weaver's back and, with the help of Ravenov and an uncertain Elizabeth Gray's personal frequency, established a covert communication line with the Requiem strike teams in the Ural Mountains. She encouraged them to seek Ravenov and help him at stopping Omega Group's Operation Inversion, or Operacja Inversia in Russian, which involved reality inversion warheads built by Peck using Tempest and designed to create massive dimensional breaches and outbreak zones, although he was seemingly fed this information by the director of Requiem as well as Zykov. Inside a missile battery, Ravenov, with the help of Requiem's strike team, managed to change the designated target from the US East Coast to the Pacific Ocean. After battling Legion and destroying the massive Ethereum crystals that blocked the missile silos, the 3 warheads launched towards the Pacific. Maxis then contacted Raptor 1 to exfil the strike team, while Ravenov stayed in the Ural Mountains. Despite her good intentions, however, the hijacking of Requiem's strike team caused major fallout for Requiem's higher echelon. The strike team barely avoided court-martial, only saved on behalf of the director himself, and Weaver decided to take the heat for Gray handing Samantha her comm line. Enraged and upset at Samantha commandeering his troops without telling him, Weaver stormed into Samantha's room and berated her for her actions, while Samantha tried to defend herself, claiming it was the right thing to do. Weaver retorted that she was told to simply take care of Notso. Samantha was then banned from her walks and once again confined to her quarters, Weaver claiming someone else would walk Notso. Unbeknownst to her, however, Samantha was being more directly scrutinized by the director. During further observation from Gray, it was discovered that Samantha was reacting differently to Ethereum contamination than any other test subject. To that end, the director greenlit further tests for Samantha. On December 1st, Samantha was dragged screaming from her quarters for testing, while a despondent Weaver claimed he would take care of the Rottweiler. 2 days later, Samantha was brought to the Block 8 testing facility where she immediately attempted to escape before being detained and put in isolation. On December 5th, she met with the director of Requiem, who personally oversaw the test regarding her telekinetic abilities. She harnessed new Dark Aether powers, or should I say re-harnessed these powers, similar to when she was in control of the Aether. This first meeting, while officially reported as an orientation to establish boundaries, that went well for both parties. The director actually interrogated and electrocuted Samantha, asking her various questions about her life, which he seemed to already know, due to him having memories from the prior Aetherverse. The next day, Samantha attempted to escape from a cell block using an improvised lockpick made from a plastic fork. On December 7th, Samantha underwent another session with the director, where he asked Samantha to use her powers, but to no avail. 15 days after her arrival, the director had yet another session with Maxis. This time, however, he purposefully played with her emotions in an attempt to manipulate and provoke her into using her powers, specifically by threatening to make Weaver disappeared for his viewed failures, as well as calling Samantha a pathetic, sad, little lost girl, making reference to what she was called within the Origins Easter egg back in the Aether, which caused Samantha to shatter the glass protecting the director with her powers in anger. It seems Samantha has heavy amnesia due to her entering the Dark Aether on Firebase C, which gives Eddie a 1-up because he can manipulate her with past knowledge of her life that she doesn't even really know, and may have even been a blur before the events on Firebase C. Samantha remained in Block 8, but on February 2nd, 1985, with Weaver by her side, she was able to rescue a captured strike team, along with Raptor 1 from their death by Lev Kravchenko, piloting an Omega helicopter, by opening a Dark Aether portal within Berlin, allowing them to escape the same cell that Maxis and Weaver are in. As she used her powers, her entire eyes were glowing purple. As the director reviewed the footage, he noted that, as her powers were growing, Maxis presented a problem for Project Janus and needed to be dealt with. On May 28th, the director met with Gray and Weaver and made the decision to approve Samantha for Operation First Domino, with the intent of using her powers to assist Requiem. He noted, though, that she would not be approved to be able to directly rejoin Requiem, before saying what would be her goodbyes to Weaver and Gray, the latter who she would reveal she viewed as more than just a friend, Elizabeth Gray, who Samantha seemed to have a love interest and a bond with during her time in Requiem. Samantha manifested in Test Site Anna during the Forsaken's escape with the Dark Aether. She would hold him back with her powers as the Requiem strike team crafted an Ethereum neutralizer, using it to travel to Main Street where Samantha and the Forsaken battled. There, she assisted the strike team in taking down the Forsaken for good by charging up 2 energy cannons nearby. When the Forsaken began his full invasion of Earth, Samantha sacrificed herself by flying into the Dark Aether portal in the Forsaken, closing the rift and allowing the Forsaken to be captured by Peck's machine. The ultimate fate of Samantha afterwards is unknown after this point. Before she flew into the Dark Aether, she lamented Richtofen's prior quotes to her, saying, "I am not a bad person, Weaver. I am a good soul. I know what I have to do. I'm sorry, this is the only way." Following her sacrifice, she has still had an integral role in the storyline we have seen unfold, as her legacy has echoed throughout the Modern Warfare 3 zombie storyline. We learn various details throughout that are key events that we will probably see unfold in Black Ops 6 Zombies. Requiem at some point attempted to rescue Samantha from the Dark Aether once more, that we will see in Black Ops 6, but this resulted in another failure. These events seemingly spanning throughout the 90s, which is the main time of Black Ops 6. At another unknown point in time, Requiem managed to acquire DNA samples of Samantha, which was used in combination with Ravenov's to conceive a child via surrogacy, using Gray as the surrogate mother. How dark is that? Whilst we do not know when Samantha's DNA was extracted, I assume this most likely happened when she was experimented on by the director of Requiem in Block 8, and it was most likely his orders, Richtofen's orders directly, to force the birth of a Ravenov and Samantha child birthed by Dr. Gray, since of course Samantha could not birth the child since she was trapped in the Dark Aether at this point. Nevertheless, Gray gave birth to a child named Aether in 1993 and was raised by Gray and presumably the other Requiem heads as well as Ravenov for 3 years while Ravenov watched over her. At the time, they recognized that Aether had a strong bond to the Dark Aether. Thanks to her mother's genes, as such, she had unknown potentials. However, as the Requiem heads were slowly dying, they decided to hand off Aether to the Jansons, a couple of national intelligence agencies, so she can begin to be raised in a normal environment, where Ravenov would keep watch over her from afar. Unbeknownst to them, Ava's birth also spawned a Dark Aether reflection of herself in the Dark Aether, later dubbed the Entity. The Entity would reach out to Ava throughout her childhood, which she assumed to be an imaginary friend. Ava also grew up not knowing the truth about her biological parents and only learned from her adoptive parents about Gray. Samantha's status remained listed in Project Janus's records as classified as of 2021. In the same year, Ava and Ravenov would be unexpectedly reunited when they both ended up being involved in a zombie outbreak in Zaravan, Urzikstan. Ravenov was recruited to join the reclassified task force Operation Deadbolt as its specialist, due to his extensive knowledge of the Cold War incursions, while Ava, who had pursued the study of Ethereum, was hired by Viktor Zakhaev to lend her expertise. Eventually, Ava defected and requested Deadbolt to rescue her, leading to her also joining the task force, though she remained unaware of her connection to Ravenov. After Deadbolt successfully thwarted Zakhaev's plans, Ava was exposed to a Dark Aether rift, which allowed the Entity to establish contact briefly with her. Afterwards, Ava began to look into Project Janus's records, learning more about Requiem's leads, and Samantha and Ravenov's role in it. She eventually confronted Ravenov about Janus, but only received a vague answer from him. The Entity's influence over Ava grew stronger over time, eventually causing her to be lured in the Dark Aether. After Ravenov and the Deadbolt strike team rescued Ava, the former decided to finally tell her the truth, by showing her a recording of Dr. Gray from 1996, in which Gray detailed the nature of Ava's birth, her biological parents, and a wish for Ava to remember her, before Gray, as well as the other Requiem heads, Weaver, Carver, and Strauss, seemingly sacrificed their lives to the Ethereum device for an unknown reason. It's unclear as to how the forced birth of Samantha by Richtofen plays into Project Janus, or what this all means. Whether this was how the gateway was opened for Project Janus on Liberty Falls is unclear, and right now we still do not know where Samantha Maxis is, but we will learn more of her in Black Ops 6, but ultimately we know the Requiem heads fail to rescue her in this game. So what is going to happen? I really don't know, but I feel like there's more to it than just a straight up failure, and we might see some sort of twist play out. But while Samantha is in the Dark Aether, her memories will likely start bleeding back to her. She will likely remember Richtofen, work out potentially he was the director of Requiem interrogating her due to him having memories, and how that is going to play out is very interesting. What Richtofen is up to in Black Ops 6 Zombies is key to the future, and Samantha's role in it is pertinent too. He wanted Samantha in the Dark Aether for a reason, and he wanted Ava to be birthed for a reason. But with that being said, that's been the entire life of Samantha Maxis, spanning both the Aether and Dark Aether stories. The ending of Modern Warfare 3 Zombies still hasn't happened, so we don't know what's going to happen with Ava Jansen, whether she will likely recombine with the entity and face off as a bad against us. Where is Samantha Maxis though? I really want to know. With that being said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.